A single tomato has enough seeds inside it to grow you 100 more plants next year, completely free, forever. And yet, almost nobody does this anymore. Not because it's hard, not because it doesn't work, but because an entire industry spent the last century making sure you forgot you could. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which seeds to save, how to store them so they actually sprout next spring, and why the seed packets on the rack at your garden center are quietly designed to make sure this year's harvest is the only one you get. But first, you need to understand how something every farmer on Earth knew how to do for 10,000 years became something most people alive today have never once tried. For almost the entire history of agriculture, seed saving wasn't a hobby or a skill. It was simply how farming worked. You grew a crop, you kept the best seeds from that crop, and you planted them again next season. Every civilization that ever fed itself did this. Farmers in the Fertile Crescent were selecting and saving wheat and barley seed roughly 10,000 years ago. Indigenous farmers across the Americas bred corn over thousands of years into thousands of regional varieties, each one adapted to its own soil and climate, purely through saving and replanting seed year after year. A farmer in one valley and a farmer 3 valleys over might be growing corn that looked, tasted, and behaved completely differently, because each community had spent centuries quietly steering their own seed line toward what worked for them. That knowledge, which seeds to keep, which plants to let go to seed, how to dry and store them, was passed down the way any essential survival skill was passed down. It didn't need a name. It was just farming. That changed fast, and the timeline is worth paying attention to. In the early 1900s, agricultural researchers discovered hybrid vigor, the fact that crossing 2 specific inbred parent lines of corn produced offspring that outperformed either parent, sometimes dramatically. This was a real scientific breakthrough, and hybrid corn genuinely did boost yields. But it came with a built-in catch that had nothing to do with the science and everything to do with the business model. Save seed from a hybrid plant and grow it out, and the next generation does not breed true. The offspring split apart genetically, reverting toward the traits of the original parent lines, and yields collapse. A farmer growing hybrid corn cannot simply save seed and replant it the way farmers had for 10,000 years. They have to go back and buy new seed from the company that controls the parent lines every single season. By the 1930s and 40s, hybrid seed corn had swept through American agriculture, and seed companies noticed something. For the first time in the history of farming, seed itself had become a product you had to keep repurchasing rather than something you simply kept for yourself. Companies leaned into this hard. Open-pollinated varieties, the old varieties that did breed true from saved seed, were pushed out of catalogs in favor of hybrids marketed as higher yielding and more uniform, which they often were, in the short term, under ideal conditions, with matching fertilizer inputs sold by the same companies. Then came a second wave that made the picture even clearer. Starting in the 1970s and accelerating through the 80s and 90s, seed companies began patenting genetically modified seed varieties outright, and in many cases required farmers to sign contracts explicitly forbidding them from saving seed at all, under threat of lawsuit. Companies like Monsanto pursued legal action against farmers found replanting saved, patented seed, even in cases where the seed had blown in from a neighboring field. In 1998, researchers with the USDA and a small seed company even developed what came to be nicknamed Terminator technology, a genetic modification designed to make second-generation seeds sterile on purpose, so a farmer physically could not replant them even if they tried. Public backlash was strong enough that the technology was never commercialized, but the fact that it was developed at all tells you exactly which direction the industry was already moving. Meanwhile, seed diversity itself quietly collapsed. Researchers with the Rural Advancement Foundation International compared USDA seed inventory records from 1903 to what remained in the National Seed Storage Laboratory by the early 1980s, and found that roughly 90% of the fruit and vegetable varieties available in 1903 could no longer be found at all 80 years later. Thousands of regionally adapted varieties, each one carrying genetics fine-tuned by generations of farmers to their specific soil, climate, and pests, simply vanished, replaced by a shrinking handful of commercial hybrids sold nationwide regardless of where you actually lived. Here's what almost nobody tells you at the garden center. Most of the vegetables home gardeners grow, tomatoes, peppers, beans, lettuce, peas, squash, are not hybrids at all and are not patented, and you are completely free to save seed from them, right now, this season at zero cost and replant them next year. The reason this isn't common knowledge isn't legal. It's simply that an entire retail industry built around annual seed packet sales has no reason to mention it. So here's how you actually do it, crop by crop. Tomatoes are the easiest possible place to start. Scoop the seeds and surrounding gel out of a ripe tomato, drop them in a jar of water, and let them sit at room temperature for 2 to 3 days. This mimics the natural fermentation that happens when a tomato rots on the ground, and it strips away a germination-inhibiting coating on the seed. Skim off the mold that forms on top, rinse the seeds in a fine strainer, and spread them on a paper towel or coffee filter to dry completely for about a week before storing. Beans and peas are even simpler. Just let a portion of the pods stay on the plant far longer than you would for eating until the pods turn brown, dry, and papery, and the seeds inside rattle when you shake them. Shell them out, let them dry a few more days on a tray indoors, and they're ready to store. Peppers only need the seeds scraped out of a fully ripe fruit, one that's gone well past the color you'd normally pick it at, then spread out to air dry for about a week. Lettuce and other leafy crops need to be left alone entirely, allowed to bolt and send up a flower stalk, which most gardeners instinctively pull out the moment it happens. Let it go to seed instead. The flowers turn into small, fluffy seed heads, similar to a dandelion, which you can shake into a paper bag once they're dry. Squash follows the same basic method as tomatoes, but without the fermentation step. Scoop the seeds from a fully mature fruit, rinse off the pulp, and dry them completely on a screen or towel, turning them occasionally so they don't mold. One important detail that trips a lot of beginners up: if you're growing more than one variety of the same species close together, say 2 kinds of squash or 2 kinds of corn, they can cross-pollinate, and the seed you save may not grow true to either parent next year. If you want reliable results, either grow one variety per species, per season, or separate different varieties by distance, or physically bag the flowers before they open. Once your seeds are fully dry, and this matters more than people think, storage is simple. An envelope inside an airtight jar, kept somewhere cool, dark, and dry, works for years. Labeled with the variety and the date. A jar in the back of a closet or a cool basement will comfortably outperform anything left in a hot garage or a humid shed. Properly dried and stored, tomato and pepper seeds commonly stay viable for 4 to 6 years, beans and peas even longer. What you end up with, season after season, is something a seed rack can never sell you. A tomato variety that spent 3 or 4 years quietly adjusting to your soil, your rainfall, your specific pests, getting a little more resilient and a little better suited to your exact garden with every generation. That's not something you can buy in a packet. It's something you grow, literally, one season at a time. And it costs nothing but the 5 minutes it takes to let a few extra fruits sit on the vine a little longer than usual. The seed companies aren't hiding a secret formula. They're just counting on you, not knowing that most of what's already growing in your backyard doesn't need to be bought again next year. Save it once, and you may never need to buy that variety again. If you want more of this kind of self-sufficient, forgotten gardening knowledge, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.